Hello and welcome to the Pinfall. Today we have a Pinfall rewind. We're going back 2 years to WrestleMania 35. This was held at the MetLife Center in New Jersey in front of 82,000 fans on the 7th of April 2019. It was main evented by the women for the first time ever. Becky Lynch defeated Ronda Rousey, the Raw champion, and Charlotte Flair, the SmackDown champion, in a winner-take-all triple threat match. Michael Cole said this would be known as Wrestlemania. Well done, Michael Cole. He did have 5 hours, 19 minutes to come up with that. So this was the first match the women main evented at WrestleMania. And for me, maybe because it was on sort of last after 5 hours, 19 minutes, maybe it didn't live up to the hype as a match. But what did you think, A, of the match, and B, of the sort of accomplishment that the women have main evented WrestleMania?
Well, firstly, I need to go back to the WrestleMania bit because I can just imagine Vince screaming in Cole's ear to say it, and the delivery and just the word itself were just awful. I can't believe that happened at the end. But because this Mania was so long, I sort of watched it in bits. I was quite fresh for this one, and I was glad I was because it was easily the best feud of the year. The hype of Becky Lynch, I believe it was a TLC Flair Rousey match, that you had to put Flair in this match as well, and the sort of animosity between Rousey and Lynch, and sort of the uncertainty if Rousey was going to drop the belt to Lynch or be the one who actually takes the pinfall, which sort of gave us that bit of a scuffed ending. So it had so much real elements to it, and combustible parts, and it just lived up to it. And I thought fair play to all three women. I don't think women's wrestling has ever hit that peak again since, or I don't think either of anyone has hit those heights. So I love this match. I thought it was amazing and thoroughly deserved to be the main event of WrestleMania.
Yeah, I completely agree. I thought it was actually a really, really good match. Just a shame about the ending, but the three women that were in the match deserved to be in it. One of the biggest female stars in the world, Ronda Rousey, obviously had the belt, never been beaten going into the match. Becky Lynch, probably the hottest woman. The streak that she had from SummerSlam where she went heel, and then basically by Survivor Series was meant to be fighting Ronda Rousey, but Nia Jax put an end to that where she busted her on the Raw before, which was, I think for me, a blessing in disguise that happened, because it built the anticipation for this match all the way to Mania. And even now, Becky Lynch has gone off to have a baby, and Ronda Rousey has also tried to sort of go off and do her family things. You're still sort of whet at the appetite that this could be a future WrestleMania match, and I think that just shows you how big it was. And it just, Charlotte played such a pivotal role in it as well, in the build-up where Vince selects her to be in the main event because they're going to have the first ever women's main event at WrestleMania, and it was just really, really good. It was just a shame for me, the ending, the pinfall, just let it down just that little bit, because I think, as Vince McMahon's been quoted in the past, you only ever remember the finish of the match, and that was just a little bit of it left a little bit of a sour taste in your mouth. It was just the way that Rousey reacted as well. It was like, was that meant to happen? And when you actually watch the pinfall back, when the match is happening, you're like, her shoulder's up. It's just so obvious that her shoulder's up, and it was just, a little bit of a shame, but the three women that were in the match, superb match, and thoroughly deserved to be in that match.
Yeah, I do remember it. I think at the time there was a lot of concern that Rousey wasn't going to let Becky beat her, because they really didn't like each other, which made people think that's why Charlotte got put into it to take the defeat. So it just added to it that was how the pin ended, because you could see by Rousey as well, she was pretty annoyed. But then, like you said, if they both come back and we get another feud, it has that long-term book into it, and certainly just would be incredible if those two got back in the ring at some point down the line.
Yeah, I didn't hate the match. I just thought it was okay, or sort of, it was okay. I feel that they could have maybe done a bit more, but I do feel that going on last after the amount of time that sort of passed throughout the pay-per-view. I think the crowd was almost a little bit flat for it, weren't they? If you compare them to, say, the crowd then to the crowd for Kofi Kingston match, say, they were just, I think they were just drained.
I was going to say, you could see they were tired. I remember I was at my friend's house watching this, and I remember going around there for like 11 and then leaving the next morning to go home and sleep, and it's like daylight. It was insanely long. So, and you think when you're at a Mania, you're probably there a couple of hours before, a few beers, and I don't know about anyone else, but if I've had 4 or 5 beers, tiredness sets in quick.
Yeah, it would have been a long night. I remember it was probably the quickest night shift I've ever done, because I started work at 10 o'clock, and by my finish time at 6:30, I'd basically watch WrestleMania and the pre-show, and it was, way too long for a wrestling card.
Cool, so I'll touch on it next. Jordan, do you want to go to the next match?
Yeah, well, we may as well go to the other big pop of the night, and that was Kofi Mania. This was the one sort of no one knew they wanted, and then it come around and then everyone wanted it, and it just lived up to expectations. It really had you sort of heart and mouth. You felt it with the crowd's energy. Like, it felt like Bryan was gonna, succumb and beat Kofi and take away this opportunity. And the only things that sort of let me down for it were, one, I really hated them going back to the wrestlers watching. I was just like, I don't really care what them all doing. I like to focus on the crowd, watching the crowd reactions, because that's like, as fans of WWE, that's what we're watching. And the presence and stuff that they brought down pre-match to sort of, it made it a little bit too obvious. It felt like that Kofi was winning. So it was a bit of a shame they did that, but the match in itself was amazing. And Kofi, I think, deserved that title as well. I thought it was incredible with the build-up, and when the crowd's on your side, sometimes you want that Mania, just those big pops, and they got it out pretty like halfway through the night. So an amazing moment, an incredible Mania moment.
Yeah, Kofi Mania was built on Mustafa Ali's injury in the build-up to the Chamber, where Kofi put on such a great display. But yeah, you just see the build-up. The New Day are so heavily involved in getting him into the main event match in the build-up to WrestleMania, and then they're a big part of his celebrations at the end. I mean, obviously, as a father, just when the kids get in the ring, it sort of does hit you a little bit emotionally, that it's so cool to see, someone who's given their life to a specific, sport, or, in this instance, the wrestling business, get their opportunity. So yeah, it was nice to see their kids. And when he gets the T-shirt out and then he goes up on the top rope and he's just holding it up, I'm like, that's every little boy's dream, in it, to get in the ring and do that at WrestleMania. I mean, great. I actually thought it was a really, really good match as well. And I think I've probably said on a previous pod, this was the version of Daniel Bryan I hated. But in a way, I think I hated him because he was just so good at playing the heel. And he was doing his job perfectly, because it was something that really agitated me. So yeah, I was delighted that Kofi won. But yeah, like George touched on, just a little bit obvious that he was going to win, but you still had that amazing emotion at the end when he did win. I was just delighted for him.
Yeah, for me, this is probably match of the night. Watching it back, I wasn't sure how I was going to feel, because when you're in the moment and you're watching it sort of live or without knowing the result, everyone wanted Kofi to win. You sort of got the build up to it was making everyone want Kofi to win. WWE do it so well. And then when he sort of lost the title, to be honest, recently I don't really care much for Kofi Kingston. So when I rewatched this, I wasn't sure how I was going to feel, and I still sort of got the emotion. I still got like the hairs sort of standing up. And obviously the commentators do a brilliant job. Like Byron Saxton's nearly crying, and it's just amazing. I think it's a really good match, and just for the emotion and the wrestling, it's probably match of the night for me.
I was just going to say, with Daniel Bryan and the quality he brings and telling a story, he's been there before and had these moments, and he knows how to make it look so good, because there was times when you thought he is just going to snuff Kofi, and it just worked perfectly. And Daniel Bryan just as good an element as the Kofi part of this match. Just what Mania is all about sometimes, just those big wins for the guys you want. And fantastic memories.
Yeah, I was away in Ireland, and there was a few people who I'd spoke to about wrestling with before. And when they said, "Have you watched WrestleMania?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I finished watching it now." And both of them said, like the first thing they said was, "Oh, Kofi Mania." So it was almost like the main talking point from the whole show. And yeah, I think it was well deserved because it was a really good match. Barnesy, do you want to give us a match that stood out for you?
Yeah, I'll probably go for one that opened the show. You talk about WrestleMania moments and just crowd pops. And after Alexa Bliss had done her little bit with Hulk Hogan, and then you see Paul Heyman walking down to the ring, cut another, real short but so effective. Like the promo, just like if we're not on last, we're getting out of here. And it's just brilliant. Then Lesnar comes out and obviously wants to destroy Rollins. Just such a good. I look back at this and I was just like, it was just perfect. I mean, at the time, it was like Kofi. Everyone wanted the Beast Slayer to win, and fair play to Lesnar. He's put over so many wrestlers now in big WrestleMania matches to set their career going. Obviously, notably McIntyre last year, but the year before, Lesnar's now taken the belt off him at 2 WrestleManias, 4 years on from 2015, where he cashed in the Money in the Bank famously. And yeah, it was just perfect. I mean, the only thing that was a little bit not annoying, but just it didn't make too much sense was that he low blowed him and then hit him with 3 curb stomps to win after he'd basically been thrown around the outside of the ring like a rag doll for about 10 minutes. I mean, when he got thrown into the German commentators who literally got taken out by him when Lesnar threw him over. That was something that got me laughing, and also when he threw him into the ring structure in his head, and you just hear the sound when they show the replay. I was a bit like, that's a bit brutal. And you could see that Rollins had been properly beaten up by a couple of the suplexes on the outside and going through the table. But yeah, when he won and he's swinging the belt up on the stage, I just love that. And one thing that I think that this WrestleMania was one of the best things for was the actual plasma screen in the background on the entrance stage. I forgot about that, and when I watched it back, that was just one thing I absolutely loved about this WrestleMania.
Yeah, like you said, the Paul Heyman stuff at the start was quality because where we talk about the longevity of the crowd during this, they're fresh. So to have him out, and because it was such a long pay-per-view, it was good to split these moments up apart because you've got so many main event caliber matches. It was great because the crowd were up on their feet. When you see him storm into the ring after Hogan, does his little Silver Dome joke. It was just amazing, and that low blow gets to everyone in the end, and then turn the tide and new champion. Great way to start Mania as well. Just another Mania. Just felt like it had so many good sort of feel good moments where you want these people to win, and then they do, and it's just quite nice to see it all sort of come to fruition.
Yeah, because we had all 3 main titles change hands on this WrestleMania. But yeah, this match for me really good, really enjoyed. I'm a huge Seth Rollins fan, and I've probably not made it much of a secret, but I do like Brock Lesnar, but I just don't like him holding the championship when he's not around all the time. I like the champion to have the belt, to be like a full-time wrestler, and that's just my personal preference. I mean, other people don't mind it, and that's up to them. But yeah, so for me, I was really happy that Seth Rollins won. Really good match, and yeah, like I said, 3 curb stomps to put the beast down.
How would you love to see that Seth Rollins go up against the Tribal Chief at this Mania? That would just be something, wouldn't it? Maybe next Mania. So the Messiah's got to go because that Seth's just amazing. That 2017 Seth, bring that back.
That was just something I loved as well. Do you know, like the little thing he does when he comes out to the ring and he's dancing to the music and he goes, dun, and then he's like bouncing down, and it's just the burn it down. Yeah, Beast Slayer for this Mania. We need the face Seth Rollins back, despite loving his outfits that he's currently coming to the ring with on SmackDown every week. That's something I'm looking forward to at the moment. His dress sense is absolutely outrageous.
Well, this started a title reign that was sort of made fans sort of turn on him a little bit, wasn't it? Because I think the fans were sort of feeling that he was getting like the Roman Reigns sort of treatment, where didn't like how sort of pro booked he was, and obviously with the Fiend, what happened in the Hell in a Cell match, I think that just ruined him for a bit. So I think, yeah, I'd love to see him come back as the burn it down Seth Rollins. That's the one I like the best. Next match on the card, which I'll start off with, was Triple H defeating Batista in a no-holds-barred match, where if Triple H lost, he would have had to retire. This was a good match, quite long. Probably went on a little bit too long, but some of the spots are really cool, especially when Triple H gets the old toolbox out from underneath the ring and takes Batista's nose ring out. That looks horrible. And there's some cool spots, I think, outside. Triple H speared Batista through the table. That was cool. And it ended up with Flair coming out to help Triple H win. So it all sort of came full circle. So yeah, I enjoyed this match myself.
Yeah, I think we touched on it in previous WrestleMania rewinds with Triple H's entrances. Just absolutely look forward to them all the time. This one didn't let us down. Some good aspects to this. It was just obviously Triple H's career was on the line. You had his best mate commentating on it, who obviously is no longer wrestling. Just some really good elements to it, and yeah, like you say, the real big spots. When he power bombs him off the top rope onto the stairs at the end, you're literally like, geez, if that went one way or the other, that's a bit of a brutal injury that could have been. But yeah, solid match. It's just always good to see Triple H on a WrestleMania card, to be honest, and I'm hoping he'll be on another one this year.
Yeah, I wasn't wowed by this match going back and watching it, to be fair. I don't know if I needed to see more of the build, remembering more of the build, should I say, going into it. It felt more of sort of like a ego massage with Triple H. But it is what it is. It probably went a little bit too long, I think, like you guys have said, especially on a pay-per-view with that went as long as it did. But there was no way Batista was going to win when the stip is Triple H never fighting a match again. It was never going to happen. He's got too many on his list. He still wants to fight, I imagine, which I'm looking forward to down the line. I don't really have much else to add on this. There was the really funny bit where Batista's in the ring from his entrance, and I think the camera's meant to cut off him. You can just see he's like laughing his head off and having a joke with someone. And it's sort of, you catch a glimpse of him sort of out of this heel character, and it's just quite funny before Triple H come down.
Yeah, he tripped up as he got into the ring, didn't he, Batista?
Yeah.
A bit clumsy. So George, do you want to give us another match that stood out for you?
Yeah, this is a Mania match we would love to have in 2021, and that is Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre. What a match. And as we've said on previous rewinds about people coming to like the start of their trajectory, this was McIntyre's. I forgot what a great heel he was because he's done such great face work. And this was the start of him just looking beastly and really being able to go toe-to-toe with Roman Reigns, and just an absolute solid match throughout. And it was good to see Roman back after the leukemia battle, because whether you were a big fan of him as the face or not, he is just a star ultimately. And to have these two just giving us a tease of what will hopefully come in the future was just amazing. And just an absolute top draw match.
Yes, this is like complete roles reversal of how the two characters are being played out in today's current WWE. And I think McIntyre, for me, is just someone that I prefer being a face. And as we know it now, I think at the time, it was sort of where Reigns was like, he needed to go heel. And it's just so good how they both reverse their roles now. And I actually think that the way they're produced now in WWE is much better than what they were back then. But it was an absolutely amazing match. I mean, McIntyre did dominate the majority of the match, and he was just in such good shape when he first returned to WWE. Although he dominated most of the match, it was quite a quick ending to him, which I thought I'd have liked to have seen Reigns just hit maybe a couple more moves on him before the spear and getting the 1, 2, 3. But definitely a solid match, and definitely one that I think could go up there with Austin and The Rock and Triple H and The Undertaker as having trilogy fights moving forward.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I think we're going to see this one again somewhere down the line, because these two are like slowly becoming the two biggest superstars that are on the roster at the moment. So I think we have to see it again. Hopefully they can start building towards it for the next WrestleMania, because I definitely want to see it. And just to say Roman Reigns coming back from leukemia, still getting booed. It's just unbelievable, really.
Yeah.
Heartless people in the crowd. But I think it's just a sign that his character did need a bit of a freshen up. And obviously now he's doing great work as a heel. And yeah, I enjoyed this match.
Yeah, wasn't this your match of the year? Reigns and McIntyre from 2020 on our Pinfall Awards World. So I think
it's it from Survivor Series.
Yeah, I definitely think it would. I know it can't happen at this year's Mania, but that is one that would have just been unreal. And so, yeah, definitely next year, if we could talk about dream matches, I think you'd be in agreement that this would be one of them.
Yeah, I think it shows how far Drew McIntyre's come, hasn't it? In 2 years, he's now up there with probably the main man on the roster.
I think as well, like just a whole package, both of them are probably at their peak in 2021 now with promos, wrestling, and to have a feud would be amazing now because they're both as good on the mic as in the ring. Reigns coming a long way with that as well from those days of the suffering succotash on that Monday Night Raw. Whoever made him do that, God.
Barnesy, do you want to tell us another match that you enjoyed from WrestleMania 35?
Yeah, I mean, I've sort of picked the first two matches on the card here. I started with the title change for Rollins, and the match that followed that was AJ against Orton. And when you watch this card back, I don't really know why this one was so early for me. I think this is one of the bumper matches that should have been sort of later in the card. It was a fairly solid match. I mean, the story of the match was basically AJ Styles trying to avoid the RKO and countering it numerous times, and eventually Styles, performed the phenomenal forearm onto the outside, and then again in the ring to get the 1-2-3. I mean, I think he's only had 5 WrestleMania matches, AJ Styles, and he's beaten Nakamura for the world title. He obviously had the Boneyard match with The Undertaker last year. He beat Shane McMahon at WrestleMania, and I think that his first ever WrestleMania was where he lost to Y2J. So he's been in there with the absolute elite, and just sort of not really talking about this match in particular. But if he was going to fight at this year's WrestleMania, I think we've touched on it before. I'd love to see him go against Triple H. So not massively a great match actually. It was okay. It just sort of petered along, and yeah, I was sort of glad AJ won. Looking back at it.
Yeah, for me, I just think it was how it was positioned. It was following a title change, and sometimes they're the hardest matches to follow, aren't they? When you've just had a big title change and the fans are so up for it. So, it was an okay match for me, but nothing really to shout about personally.
I think when you scout the card pre-Mania, you probably look at those beer runs and toilet runs, and this match probably falls on that as well. And it was a good match. It felt like it went on for quite a while, which I thought was quite strange, but it almost served its purpose to give the crowd a little bit of a break, let them get their next drinks in, toilets in, and before the next big match comes along. So yeah, good match, but not one of the more memorable matches for me.
Well, the next match that I want to talk about is, I'm a big tag team wrestling fan, so it's the Fatal 4-Way match for I think it was the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, where the Usos defeated Aleister Black and Ricochet, Rusev and Nakamura, and The Bar. I just loved this match. I thought it was really good. I obviously I couldn't really remember what had happened. I mean, it was only 2 years ago, but obviously a lot has happened on this card since. So, I really enjoyed it. I think Sheamus was doing the 10 beats of the barrel to everyone, and then Cesaro just in the middle spinning Ricochet.
Yeah.
I mean, he must have been so dizzy after that. And there was a few other cool spots. I think there was one where there was about 5 men sort of piled up, and they sort of did a suplex powerbomb thing, where Ricochet was at the very top, but sort of just rolled through unhurt. But I really enjoyed this match, and it made me think that sometimes we're quite critical of tag team wrestling, where we're like, don't put Aleister Black and Ricochet together. They're not a real tag team. They're just 2 singles wrestlers put together. But when you see them on the card at WrestleMania, you think, well, I'd rather see them on this year's WrestleMania as a tag team than not see them at all. So I think maybe maybe next time I criticise them for putting 2 singles wrestlers together, I might have to sort of check myself, because you do get good matches and you do get to see these wrestlers on the card.
Yeah, for me, when I was watching this, I just couldn't believe how good Sheamus and Cesaro, when they were The Bar, how good they were. It was one when I got to the match, I was just like, like you say, Wolves, completely forgot about it, and it was probably one of my favourite matches when I was watching it back, actually. And definitely the highlight was that Ricochet getting spun round. What I always find incredible with it is, as soon as he finishes, Cesaro shakes his head even more, which would make you even more dizzy, and then he locks in the sharpshooter, and I'm like, how is he not like falling over? Or, I mean, when I do that to my kids, like I do 2 spins, and I'm like, well, hang on a minute. So yeah, it just shows how incredible it was. And yeah, the Usos as well back in the day, so good. I just love them, and it'd be interesting to see, in the modern day WWE, what happens when Jimmy comes back. Are they going to sort of go back as the Usos, or is he going to join Reigns? It's going to see how that unfolds.
Yeah, around this Mania, Usos were just one of the best tag teams in wrestling. They were so good. And as Will's just touched upon, you can get the good pairings of teams together, and then you can have the bad pairings of just why Nakamura and Rusev were together. Even their build together was a bit strange. How they just become like friends through common enemies. But yeah, great match. It's a shame that Ricochet and Black have never really kicked on from this, especially because they felt like they were at their height then. And I will never know how Ricochet lands on his feet from that, like double suplex, double German, like it is absolutely. It's just bodies. Imagine being live watching that. You must think someone's going to die, and he goes over it, and he's on his feet in the corner. I think he even shocked himself at how he landed on his feet for that, because that was just incredible. And he is an incredible talent. He's done some absolutely insane things. I always think about like that 650, 850 from the top of War Games. That was just an outrageous move. And it does make me a little bit sad when I look at Ricochet and Black. They're sort of lost in the pack when they were so popular when they were together. Maybe they did need to stay together like the Bar and do a bit more and become champs, and maybe they'd be a bit higher up now than they were. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyable match.
Yeah, George, want to give us another match you liked?
Yeah, well, this match was my Kofi Mania with this title change hands of the women's tag titles. As I said at the start, I was around my friend's house, Matt Harvey, who is not only a massive WWE mark, he is a massive Pinfall Pod mark and a massive Iconics mark. And this match, just for that ending alone, was just so good. I love the camera positioning on it. You could see Billy Kay come up for the tag and get in the ring. And I remember it to this day, being around his house, we were like, oh my God, they're going to do it. They're going to do it. And even the crowd watching Royce lob Phoenix out the ring and knowing that they were going to get the belts, it was just, it was incredible. And watching it back, it just made me sad at what the tag titles are like now and how they're not even a team anymore. And it felt like it should be kicked on with having more progressive tag teams now, like Bayley and Sasha led the ship. Now it's passed over and now get more tag teams in. But yeah, great match, so enjoyable. Seeing Beth Phoenix back as well, what a talent she was, and a legend of WWE.
Yeah, what I liked about this match was that in the build-up, sometimes they can tease what's potentially going to happen. And in the build-up, I never once thought the Iconics were going to win. Obviously, going back and watching it, you know the outcome. But it was a real good shock that they actually did get the belts, and it was well-deserved at the time because they did go on to have a good couple of years, fighting at the top of the women's tag team division. So I was actually, completely surprised when they did win the belts. But like I say, delighted for them, and definitely delighted for you, Joel, because I know you were very happy with that.
Yeah, I was happy with that as well because I'm a big Iconics fan. And when you watch this, you're just sort of sad they're not together anymore. And the saddest thing is that they could be, because then while they're doing good stuff on their own, they'd be better together, wouldn't they? Let's be honest. And they would be good for the women's tag division, really. So, I enjoyed this match. Was sad in a way when you think, because Sasha Banks after this went away for a while, didn't she, as well? So, I enjoyed the match, and really happy for the Iconics.
I think for us, Wilbs, as well, NXT was at its massive height then, and they've just come up. So I remember being a massive NXT fan with them, so I had a lot of like time from when they were like doing their matches with Asuka for the women's title. So when they came up and part of Mania, I was buzzing just to see them up. Then to go on and win it was just absolutely incredible. What really made me laugh during this match was I think Sasha hit a frog splash and Michael Cole started like spouting how she's a massive Eddie Guerrero fan and it was his idol, and then Paige just comes across like basically telling him that Peyton Royce is in full Eddie Guerrero attire and how he's her hero too. And it just made me laugh how he almost couldn't see her attire was, an homage to Eddie Guerrero.
Barnsley, what match did you enjoy from this?
Well, another one that I always enjoy or look forward to is when Shane McMahon's on the card, because I think I touched on it in another Rewind ep. Just, he's always up for lobbing himself off some platform. And so at this Mania, he was the best in the world, as we remember. And he had his, what's the ring announcer name? Greg Hamilton always, shouting, Shane McMahon, and holding his breath for like 20 odd seconds to say his name. I really hated Shane McMahon when he had this best in the world that he won at, I think, Crown Jewel or one of the Saudi pay-per-views. And going into this match, it was like they were fighting because they'd broken up as the tag team champions, I think, the month before, or Shane attacked basically the Miz, and obviously this one-on-one match happened, and yeah, it was an okay match. I mean, it was I absolutely popped when Miz's dad come out from the front row, got into the ring, and then like squared up to Shane, only to get absolutely destroyed in a 10-second flurry of punches. But yeah, this one obviously then went into the crowd, and you're looking around the arena and thinking, what's Shane going to jump off of here? And then he goes up onto that raised platform where the cameras are, and the Miz suplexes him off, only for Shane to land on top of the Miz and actually get the win. So yeah, you're always waiting for that big show-stopping moment, and as soon as that happens, it's the end of the match. So surprised the Miz didn't win this one, just because of the way it was built. But I think when you take a big sort of suplex like that off one of them platforms, you deserve to win. So sort of happy Shane won.
Yeah, I was going to say, you knew shit got real when Miz's dad gets in the ring for some fisticuffs. Yeah, it was go time. But yeah, I remember Shane winning that World Cup sort of match where I think, was it Ziggler went all the way to the final and then he took his place, and I did forget how good of a heel Shane was at this time. It was amazing at that heel, and yeah, just a good match. And Miz always had at this time that sort of moniker where he never took risks and he would never do the big spots. So it was good to see him do some of those high risk spots and always not pay his dues, but just to show that he can do them if he wants to do them. Because wrestling's not all about the high spots and like the most daredevil things you can do, but to show he could do it if he wanted to was I thought it was quite a good way to end the match.
Cool. So the next match that I want to talk about is Baron Corbin defeating Kurt Angle in Kurt Angle's very last match. Well, I'm not promoting another podcast here. We're not getting paid to do it unless they want to pay me. But Kurt Angle's got his own podcast out, and it is really, really good. And one of the episodes is about his last sort of match in WWE in this WrestleMania. They talk about obviously the build up to it, and obviously you can go and listen to that on your own time. But it's a really interesting listen. And he was saying that he wasn't too happy that, first of all, he had Corbin. He wanted to have Cena. But then when he knew he had Corbin, he was happy to do the job for Corbin, sort of doing what's best for business sort of thing. And again, he was a little bit disappointed with how much time they got, because I think this match was really short. I think it was like 5 minutes. And I guess as a wrestler, you probably can't do too much in that short amount of time. So for me, I feel Kurt Angle did deserve better. Sort of a poor way. He was such a legend for me. He's one of my all-time favourites. So for me, I would have liked to have seen him maybe in the ring with someone else. And I don't really think that Corbin's really even made the most of it, really. If you fast forward to now, I'm not even sure what sort of WrestleMania match he's going to have. The one in between, WrestleMania 36, he lost to Elias. So, yeah, fair enough, he become King of the Ring, but I would have liked to have thought by beating Kurt Angle in his last match might have sort of pushed him up to the next level, and it probably hasn't.
Yeah, I when I watched this match, I actually just felt sorry for Kurt Angle the whole time. And the fact that we've said this was like a 7.5 hour pay-per-view, and you're, the only wrestler with an Olympic gold medal was getting 5 minutes in his last ever match against someone who's, he's trying to put over, which I get to make them, to elevate them. But like you say, apart from winning King of the Ring, his character's he needs a refresh. He's someone who you just need to repackage, I think, Baron Corbin, because he has got some talent. And I just remember this match for hating his just ring attire when he was wearing this flipping outfit. Just still winds me up now. But yeah, just going back to Kurt Angle, what an absolute hero! 20 years service, and then even after the sort of 5-6 minute match or whatever it was that he delivers sort of one of the worst retirement speeches you've ever heard in your life as well. Just sort of thanking the fans and getting them to tell him that he sucks. It's just, I know that's his thing, but I thought he might have said a little bit more, but maybe they were pushed for time and needed to get him off. But felt sorry for Angle on this one when I was watching it back, and I just felt like he definitely deserved more. Cena would have been so fitting in the last match.
Well, yeah, you think the sort of Mania matches where you had Flair, Michaels Taker, and they were last matches. Kurt Angle certainly needs to be respected in that same sort of breath and have the Cena match that he wanted and not sort of thrown to Corbin. Just like you both just said, wasn't a fan of any of it. The promo afterwards, the result, it's all a bit too, he deserved more, and it's a shame he didn't get more. That's all I have really to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, after you listen to our podcast, I strongly suggest you go and listen to Kurt Angle's show. It's so good. I think it's been 4 or 5 so far. He's covered like his first year run, and what else is it? WrestleMania 21 against Shawn Michaels, which is one of the best matches of all time at WrestleMania. But this one's definitely a really good listen. So yeah, go and check that out after you listen to the Pinfall, of course. Jordan, what's the last match you want to speak about?
Yeah, well, it was a pretty quick match. I think Bray had an injury, so it went pretty quick to Samoa Joe, and he is someone, watching this back just made me sad. He was never world champion in WWE. I still think he could go in wrestling, and just an absolute incredible wrestler. Just dominated him. I know they went quick. They just made him look beastly for that US title match, and I'd love to see him in the ring. It's a shame he hasn't been able to mix up with the big guys there now. And just miss Samoa Joe in the ring.
Yeah, he's just such a talented guy, because even when he's commentating on Raw, he does such a good job, and you wouldn't even know that was sort of something that he's done after wrestling. And like you just said, I think he's one of the best wrestlers in WWE that's never had the belt. And he definitely deserves a last run if he's got it in him. Not too much to add, really. I mean, he obviously wins with his pattern and Kakita clutch, choking him out and retaining the belt. So another short match in a 7-hour card, and someone who obviously deserved more. But like you say, Ray sounded like he had an injury at this point, so no surprise that it was sort of a quick squash, really. Yeah,
if you want to see Samoa Joe in his glory on WWE Network, just go to his NXT days. He was so good in NXT. And it's just a shame, really. Like I say, he never really hit the heights that maybe we all hoped he would. But yeah, he's very good at commentary right now.
I was just going to say, and if you want to go further back with Angle as well, go watch his feuds on TNA back in the day. Him and Angle back then, outrageous. Even though this is WWE, well worth going to just watch them two wrestle each other at their peaks. Incredible.
Look at us promoting all the other podcasts and other
wrestling
networks. They return the favour. We're getting that on Impact.
All right, so Barnsley, last match. Let's hear from you.
I think the last match I'll talk about is Finn Balor against Bobby Lashley. They were fighting for the Intercontinental title. Lashley going in as the champion, and Balor coming out as the demon, and pretty much dismantling Lashley, really. It was pretty one-sided throughout the match, as you'd expect when he's bringing out the demon. And it just sort of made me think how these two guys are currently represented. Obviously, Balor's now the NXT champion, been the NXT champion sort of coming up, must be 6 months now. And he's actually, in a way, elevated his career by going back to NXT and just dominating that brand, in my opinion. And having matches now with sort of Adam Cole that's about to happen again. Just mouth-watering, just absolutely sort of elated that he's sort of, having these 5-star matches on every sort of takeover and not just having to be on the main roster to prove how good he is in sort of wrestling. And then Lashley, who's been one of the main beneficiaries of the pandemic, really. He's sort of carried Monday Night Raw with the Hurt Business and is now the WWE champion. So yeah, it was sort of weird looking back and thinking this was only 2 years ago that these were sort of fighting for the Intercontinental title, and now they're both champions on their respective brands. So a solid match. Obviously, you'd expect Balor to win when he brings out the Demon. It's only something that he does at really big pay-per-views, sort of Mania or SummerSlam. When he hit the coup de grace on Lashley, it was all over. One thing I sort of forgot about Lio Rush, because he sort of was with Lashley for a bit doing that. He always used to ag the life out of me when he used to go, Lashley. And that's sort of when he come out with a towel. He had a sort of short singles career, or I don't even know where he's gone anymore. But yeah, it was good to see how far they've come, I think.
The two things for me was that, firstly, I miss Finn mixing it with these guys on the main roster. I feel like he should be headlining and up there. He could certainly do it, and it would be amazing to see him back up there. And then secondly, just how much fine tuning Lashley's done over the last 2 years, from where he is here to where he is now. I just think the whole package of Lashley just looks so much better. And when you talk about going from the IC to the WWE title, it just feels like his improvement's gone up with that step up the belts as well. Great match. Well, they both put on a really good match. There was a hellacious spear onto the outside by Lashley, which was an absolutely incredible spot. But yeah, the demon was cool. I just missed that sort of element of Finn. It'd be nice to see him back on a Raw or SmackDown, just tearing it up with Bryan, Reigns, Owens, Zayn, Cesaro, all those guys again. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I mean, we can probably talk about it on another podcast, but I wouldn't be surprised if we do see Finn Balor back soon. Seems like he's working his way through the NXT roster fairly quickly. So hopefully we do get him back soon, because it would be lovely to see him, like you say, mix it with the current roster and see him again at WrestleMania. And I quite like the Demon as well, so I wouldn't mind seeing the Demon back soon. Just a quick one. We also saw John Cena make a quick little appearance. He came in as the Doctor of Thugonomics when Elias was doing his concert. Did you enjoy seeing John Cena back in his old character?
Oh, yes. For me, this was a real highlight. And I sort of forgot it happened, actually. Like when it was Elias in the ring, I was like, something happens here, but I just couldn't remember. And then as soon as that Doctor of Thugonomics music hits, I was just like, this is quality. And Cena's raps that he used to do just off the cuff were just so good. When I think it was on the Ruthless Aggression series on the network, where they talk about him just doing it on the back of the bus one day, and Stephanie McMahon hears it and says, God, you've got to do that on TV. And then obviously, he had that persona for a couple of years at the start of his sort of career before he went on to be, the biggest babyface I think wrestling's ever seen. It was just nostalgia, wasn't it? It's just nice that he didn't come out in his sort of orange t-shirt and orange hat. He comes out as the Doctor of Thugonomics and absolutely destroys Elias. Don't always need to see him in a match. That was just perfect for me. He's just such a big star. So it was good.
Yeah, it was just quite a nice little Mania moment. I did then and still now enjoy Elias. I think he's entertaining. Hampered by having no crowds, because he definitely needs a crowd there. But yeah, just a great little Mania moment to have old Cena back as the Doctor. Just a nice little part of the show.
Cool. Right, let's sum up WrestleMania 35 then. So obviously, like we've hopped on a little bit saying it. It was 5 hours 19 minutes long, so that's the longest pay per view WWE's ever put on. There was 12 matches, plus there was four in the pre-show as well. If you was in there for that, is that too long and is that too much? Do you think that it appears like this year they're obviously going to do a 2 day? Is that the way forward now? Do you think?
I think this WrestleMania is actually pretty decent. But I say that because I watched it in about 4 sittings. So I wasn't there for 7 hours, including the pre-show, watching it in one slog. I remember at the time just thinking this is too long when I was watching it live. But having watched it in snippets, I think it was really, really good. But yeah, I sort of don't really... I just want WrestleMania to be one night, 4 hours of just, the best guys on the rosters with storylines that make sense, and just have it like that. I'm not a massive fan of the 2 night WrestleManias, to be honest, but I know we've only had one and it was behind closed doors, so it's still open to see what's going to happen. We'll see what they do this year at the Raymond James Stadium. But yeah, for me, the perfect Mania is 4 hours, just solid matches, a little bit of nostalgia with some WrestleMania moments, and keep everyone happy.
Yeah, I really like the 2 nights, to be fair. I think even watching this one back, I just remember it being a slog, and it felt like a slog even going back through it. And with the 2 nights, I think the crowd desperately needs that break just to get back into it, because, like I said, it can be a bit flat for that main event. And I wonder what the crowd would have been like if that pay-per-view was split over 2 days. And, you go home, have a good sleep, come back in, and you probably haven't got much of a pre-show. You're probably a bit more energized for that second night. So yeah, 2 nights for me. I'd rather have 2 3 hour or 4 hour days than a 6 7 hour slog again.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much bits of both of what you both said. Like, I agree with Barnsley. I thought it was a really good WrestleMania, and like you said, I watched it over sort of 3 or 4 sittings and enjoyed it. So it was good in that respect. But I do agree with what Jordan said. I think give WrestleMania 2 nights. What they used to do, they used to have NXT Takeover on a Saturday and then WrestleMania on a Sunday. So it's effectively almost 2 nights anyway, isn't it? So I think if you need to sort of put NXT on the WrestleMania card going forward, I'd welcome that. I think that'd be a good addition. But yeah, let's try 2 nights for a couple of years, and yeah, I think this WrestleMania, especially the main event, was sort of let down by the length of the pay-per-view, which shouldn't be the case, really, should it?
New Japan's Wrestle Kingdom's over 2 nights, and they do it quite well. Where what WrestleMania could do is where they have these non-title single matches, you could almost have them on the night one to mean something going into night 2, and you can sort of carry it over. Right? It doesn't have to be like, I don't know, who's going to fight for the Intercontinental title night 2 and have like your opening match determine who's going to move over to the second night. So I think with 2 nights, you open it up a bit more to make more matches just mean a little bit more as well.
Yeah, I think this year we're only getting the 2 nights because of the pandemic. So there's only, I think, they're allowed 30,000, I think, in the 80,000 or whatever it is seater stadium. And I think they've already announced that the year after the WrestleMania is in LA, isn't it? And I think they're going back to 1 night. So be interesting if they were to do 2 nights. But yeah, I agree with what George sort of said. 2 nights is good, but if they're going to do 2 nights, just do 3 hours. Don't do 5 hours on both nights. That's just over the top.
Yeah, I think this one is a good indication. Like, it's a good sort of practice for a minute to see how it goes in front of fans over 2 nights, and if it's a success, then I guess they'll give it another go. But just nothing they did on this year's WrestleMania, which was, I believe, the first time they did it, and they didn't do it last year, but probably because it was behind closed doors. They had guest commentators for about 5 matches, didn't they? I think they had King, Page, Booker T, Shawn Michaels,
JBL.
JBL. So did you like that aspect, or did you not really care for it, or what did you think of that?
I had no real feeling towards it, to be fair. They were just sort of there. I mean, I imagine watching live you could do without the whole, getting them introductions and stuff, and just sort of crack on with the match.
I personally, I actually thought it added something to it. It's when you're listening to someone for 7 hours or 5 hours for the main card, and it's, you know, they split it up because you got the Raw and the SmackDown commentary team. But yeah, just adding another little voice to it, I think adds something to it. And they're all legends. They're not just like pulling people out of the crowd to do it. They're, you know, they're people that are respected and been commentators in the past. So yeah, I actually enjoyed that aspect of it and would like to see more.
Yeah, because I think at the time Corey Graves was doing Raw and SmackDown, so it definitely gave him a break. So otherwise he would have been doing the whole 5 hours, 19 minutes worth. I think we all sort of said we all enjoyed the pay-per-view. If you cut it up and watch it in segments, I thought it was pretty decent WrestleMania, to be honest. Anything else you guys want to add to that?
No, not from me. Just a solid Mania, I'd say. And I think on the Pinfall Rewind, we picked 3 of the best that I can remember.
Could be controversial, but I don't miss Byron Saxton.
Poor Byron.
Yeah, God.
Wilby likes him because he liked his tweet about his socks one time.
Yeah, I thought he did a great job in the Kofi Kingston Daniel Bryan match as well. I thought he really sold it. Like, you could tell that he was probably mates with him backstage because he was getting proper emotional. But that's what it's all about, isn't it? Really, that's the commentator's job to sell it as well. Like, we covered another WrestleMania where we were saying about how JR sort of sold the Stone Cold heel turn so well, and that's their job. And yeah, I thought we did really well on that match as well.
Harsh, Jordan. Harsh.
Yeah, I think harsh criticism.
Yeah. That was my heel turn.
But that's it. Thank you very much for listening to the Pinfall Rewind. We've enjoyed doing the 3 we've done so far. And in the build-up to WrestleMania, we'll be doing a WrestleMania preview show on the week leading up to WrestleMania, so please give that a listen. And also, please, if you can, give us a follow on Twitter. We are at the Pinfall Pod. And leave us a nice little comment if you've enjoyed the show. Thank you very much for listening. This has been the Pinfall. Time to ring the bell.